Well, we're finally out of the design process, thank goodness, and into purchasing. The organization shall ensure that externally provided processes, products, and services conform to requirements. And it's up to you, the organization, to determine the controls for all this. Here's some more. You have to control drop shipping. You have to control outsourcing. You have to control part assemblies that are provided by an external provider, and that could include code. You have to determine and apply criteria for the evaluation and selection of suppliers. So this is not completely easy. Can there be another widget company video? Yes, there is another widget company video. Scan the QR code. The basic requirements of the ISO standard are to develop criteria for the suppliers, evaluate them, select them, monitor them, and re-evaluate them at some point, which allows you to appropriately select suppliers for supplying your external materials. Here's the clause of the standard that talks about type and extent of control of your providers. You have to ensure that your providers remain within control of the quality management system, identify the controls you intend to apply, and then take into consideration the risks and all the rest of these things. It's up to the organization, basically, to define a set of rules on all of this. These may be complicated or simple. Here's some typical selection criteria. Cost is a perfectly legitimate selection criteria, as is customer specified supplier capabilities and reliability. At some point in the day for re-evaluation, the last one might be the only one that matters. Here's a thought question for you. What happens when the outsourced entity is corporate? That is, purchasing or design is done by an entity outside the scope of the quality management system that might or might not be in conformance with the ISO standard. Here is information for external providers. This is better known as the purchase order. What it is you shall communicate to the external providers all these requirements. The processes needed, the approval of everything, competence of employees, external providers' interactions with the organization, including a point of contact. I'll let you read the rest of them. Basically, this information is usually provided in either the contract or the blanket purchase order terms and conditions, or just on the order. Here's some more thought questions. If you have customer requirements, such as environmental, and your external provider is far away, such as across the Pacific Ocean, what's your obligation for those suppliers to meet your customers' requirements? Second one is, if you have internal requirements, such as material integrity specifications, and your external provider is far away and has testing responsibility, how are you sure that product integrity is maintained? Next one is, what requirements do you have to flow down to your subcontractors and outsourcing people, including, by the way, knowing the quality policy and quality objectives? Here are some external provider failure modes. The first one is, we required ourselves to do a supplier evaluation annually. Between December 25th and 31st, we checked all the boxes and turned it in and called it good. It's up to you to set the rules as to how, when, who to evaluate, and how often. Second one, we purchased product from a supplier who wasn't on the approved list, even though he was in the system. So if your definition of approved is people that are in the system, you have to police that somehow. Here's another one. We evaluated a supplier, found him or her to be terrible, and then continued to ordering from them. That's probably not good. Here's another one. We've been ordering by catalog number for years. Who are we to know that the supplier would change the formulation without telling us? This goes back to the salmon story. You remember the salmon story clear back in the beginning? Basically, among other things, it is your responsibility, if you want to specify that supplier tell you if there's a change in their process that might affect your process. Here's another one. Who are we to know that even though we are producing medical goods, our supplier could change sources without telling us and not maintain traceability? Oh yeah, traceability is a big thing, especially in medical. You have to, as part of your purchasing information and your agreement with that supplier, have a conversation about what traceability requirements you have. Here's some more. Oh yeah, we do an evaluation every 6 months on our suppliers of sticky notes. It's getting to be a lot of work, so don't evaluate your suppliers of sticky notes. It's you that makes up the rules for all of this. Just do the major suppliers. Here's another one. Who are we to know that our outsourced chrome plating company was dumping chemicals in the local watershed and using human traffic labor? Don't want to get into that. Better have some auditing. Better check into them. Here's another one. Who are we to know that the company we transferred work to then transferred it to someone else who then messed it up? Oh yeah, you have to specify that in the purchasing information. So anyway, it's up to you, the organization, to set the rules for all of this with an eye on providing necessary, but not more than necessary, controls for outside purchases. Here's my favorite purchasing story. A long time ago, I called on a company as a technical service person. The company had hired a new purchasing manager. This fellow had started on the production floor, and for him, it was a promotion to an office job, and it was a big thing. What was true at the time was that the purchasing manager could sometimes be influenced by entertainment. There was a restaurant nearby, and this purchasing manager loved being treated to big dinners with plenty of adult beverages and harmless flirting with the waitstaff. We were cordial with the fellow and did our business, and everything was fine. We went back after about 6 months, and the purchasing manager had been fired. We found out he was ordering mass quantities of everything. Whatever system that had told him what to purchase was overruled by his desire to get the favor of one of the more generous salespeople, particularly the one that was selling them paper bags. They had several years' worth of paper bags in inventory. The new purchasing manager, who he knew from a previous situation, immediately put a stop to all of it. Nowadays, of course, there's an MRP system and systems by which there are inventory triggers that aren't influenced by dinners. And in fact, it's true to say that in most professionally run organizations, the accounting department is heavily involved in the purchasing process, and a lot of the purchases, depending on value, need to be countersigned by some authority figure. So those days are gone, fortunately, and it's probably a good thing.